Yes, or, it's perfect when you're doing it before, but if you're doing it, and you get it set up absolutely perfect, that's exactly where you want it to be, and then you are high. So you just hit it, during the thing, and then now it fucks off.
Yeah, because
so there you go.
Can't remember that very simple shit where it's just right there. It's just like, just remember it's right there, that's all. Just don't hit it.
But you can't, you like lose it. Like every now and then I'll catch my nose in my vision. You know what I'm talking about? Like you're not supposed to really be able to do that. Your brain kind of omits it or whatever.
Yep.
Like think of that for a rhinoceros or something. You know what I mean? You'd want to like kind of fill that in with something useful. Yeah. Even if it is just a guess. And so like I'll catch my nose. I'm like, I'm not supposed to see that, And it's just one of those things. It's like, it's not quite a glitch in the matrix, but it's still interesting.
Yeah, like your brain only processes a small percentage of the trees that are actually in your field of vision, right? So your brain is just filling in the empty space.
Yeah. I forget what it's called. I bet I can look this up, but it's called like the reticulating activative system or something like that. And it's exactly this. Your brain will fill in not only for your vision, but auditorily, all sorts of different senses. It doesn't understand what it's observing or seeing or whatever, and your brain will fill this in.
Yeah, and think about it. I think that also, I think that extends to more of a psychological thing too, right? Mm-hmm. I think your imagination can do that with a whole, like it can do that with entire scenarios. You know what I mean? Like it just fills in space.
Government would never lie to me. Why would they do that?
Yeah. Or like, like you imagine that your significant other is cheating on you because your brain made up a whole bunch of shit to fill in the empty space because you're an untrustworthy dumbass, and it's actually tied to some stupid shit that happened when you were 7.
Yeah, or it is usually the person that is unfaithful. That's the one that's like accusing the other person because they can't rationalize them not being unfaithful because they themselves can rationalize that because they in fact are. And so it's kind of an accusatory kind of like, because the world's just a mirror to you anyway, right? I mean, that idea is something that's a lot of fun. Reticular activating system. That's what it is. Is the fundamental role of the reticular activating arousal, sleep, awake, transitions. It's crazy. Projects the bunch of words. Anyway, it does what I was talking about. There you go.
Yeah, it's projection, really. You're just projecting your own insecurities and, oh my God, you're afraid of getting caught. And you're just projecting it on the other person. And it's gaslighting too.
And it absolutely is. And this goes with anything, like you did this to me or you did that to me or whatever. And usually the things that you don't like about even your immediate partner are things that you don't like about yourself because they're just mirrors back to you anyway. So there you go. And this idea, though, has been very interesting. I've been playing with it a lot lately. I highly recommend anybody that wants to just check this out. You basically just find a part of yourself that you're not a fan of. It will show up in your reality in some way. I've got a couple of examples if you want them. And then you get to choose if you want to be a greater, grander version of yourself, or if you kind of just want to perpetuate this situation to keep popping up in your life in different forms. You know what I mean? Because it's just going to be the same thing, just in a different way. It greets you with the same lesson will greet you with many faces. And it's just one of these things. Like, and once you can kind of wrap your mind around that, then you really start to play with it. And then it's very, very interesting. So I highly recommend everybody check this thing out.
Yeah.
Play with it.
Yeah, and it very much happens. Like I can't get away with anything. You know what I mean? Like if I ever do anything wrong, whether it's on like a personal level or a business level or anything like that, if I know it's wrong, it always comes back like immediately and bites me in the ass.
Yeah.
And that's been a constant throughout my life. So it's been a nice feedback loop. It's instantaneous. But when you're a younger man, you tend to ignore those things.
Well, you're indestructible, immortal, and you're young. So, I mean, and one has to do with one another. And you just think you're indestructible. I did, man. I should not be alive so many times over. My nephew just stayed with us for the summer. He does this. And I was telling it, things come up in conversation. You're with a kid for a month, and it was fun. He's great. And he's 16 now. He's done this 3 summers in a row with this, and he's awesome. I actually had him on the show. I had Peter Whitley join us from Japan. He's the international MUFON director of Japan over there, and really cool dude. He astral travels onto UFOs, and so my nephew Nick was interested in astral traveling and stuff like that, and so we got to do that episode. Anyway, to the point, we were telling him just, and I have just these crazy fucking stories of when I was, because I moved out 2 days after graduation, and then I was just on my own, and I was a much wilder man. This is a super tame version of me, and so like I bought a Ninja at the age of 18, and I have all sorts of stories about like riding it on ecstasy and shaving my arms because of the way it felt in the wind. Never had a helmet. I had a helmet 6 hours right before I totaled it, and that's the actually only reason I'm still alive is because of that helmet, because of the way that I landed whenever I flew off the bike. But so we like all of these little things, these dumb things that you do when you're a kid, and you feel indestructible. And in some cases, like mine, like I wasn't proven wrong. Now there's this idea of like quantum immortality, where if you like maybe I died in that motorcycle wreck, but really my consciousness shifts to a reality where there's like a dash between kit and cat, or no longer a dash between kit and cat, depending on which direction you're in, dimension you're in, like with the Mandela effects and shit. And maybe that's what that Mandela effects are too, is like you just shifting into another fucking dimension real quick because you did die in that motorcycle wreck. But either way, you learn and you move on, and this consciousness flows through a stream of maybe many, 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 many lifetimes that look like one from your perception. But it also may just be like, you just getting super lucky, and, maybe there is something out there kind of guarding you and guiding you. And it's like, okay, well, it's not your time yet, so just stick it out, man. Just do your best, kind of the thing. And I have countless stories of this, like doing acid and go in the woods for 3 days, like horrible wrecks and accidents and shit like that I should not have been okay in. And I was totally fine. Just weird, like just stop doing cocaine, like just weird shit, like nothing super, super, super traumatic. And if it was, I really, felt really, really lucky with it. So it was crazy. But yeah, the motorcycle shit. And so there's all these dumb things you do as a kid. And you learn from it though. And if you survive it, and all of that good stuff, then I think you're better for it, man. Like there's so much value in, being stupid, at a level, because you really learn a lot.
Yeah, when you live hard, you learn a lot of lessons, and the beautiful thing is it usually gets compressed into a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as you're paying attention, or as long as reality slaps you in the face and gets your attention, yeah, you can learn a lot of shit. That's why it's not that I don't criticize people for the way they live their lives, but I'll never understand a safe approach at a young age. Like in your 20s, of course, like you want to do good and do the right things. But whatever you do, you got to do it hard. That doesn't mean it has to be dangerous. And I mean playing it safe as in not doing the hard, difficult things. Pedal to the metal type of shit when you get the energy for it.
Right, and you can compare this to like silver spoon people versus like blue collar people who've worked for everything their entire life or something. They just have a different perspective on this place. And especially in this case, to where you could say, well, they don't understand the real world. You don't understand it moving at that pace. And so you really just are detached, or you have one choice of an experience to be detached here. Or maybe they're NPCs here to just kind of play that role. We don't know. It's all fun and exciting. But there, I think, has to be that for there to be this idea of duality that exists here, and that's kind of the fundamental of this place. And it just, I don't know, man, it's just interesting, kind of the paths that people choose and the necessary shittiness that occurs for you to become who you are, and how it's so fucking valuable, because nobody was ever just like taking it easy and had a super awesome change in their life. It's always something really shitty, usually. And it really motivates change, which, one could say that consciousness did on a big level in 2020. But to the, why we do it in our 20s thing, that's kind of like we're built for being dumb as hell then. Your body is like way more able. Hopefully you're not popping out a bunch of babies if you've chosen a really reckless route, and, I'd rather people participate in their child's lives if that's something that they'd like to do. But again, like you, I'm not in the habit or business of telling people what to do. But you're indestructible then. I'm glad I got all that shit out of my system, man, because it's the people that don't. It's the people that wait until later. And I've had many conversations about this, about people that don't even do, like, smoke pot or drink a beer until they're like 40 with kids. And then they end up, some, not all, of course, we're just saying an example here, kind of spiral into this thing they should have gotten out of their system in their 20s, but really now they're 40, emptying their savings on, cocaine and strippers and just like, or just whatever, whatever they feel that they missed out on. And perhaps this is what, a lot of midlife crises are, right? Is you think about like not having like got that out of your system, or having been so attached to that time period in your life, especially like high school or your glory days or something, to where you can't move past it and grow in a healthy way with as your physical, vessel ages as well. And there's this like perfect thing about kind of getting it out of the way, like you and I did. You know what I mean? It builds character. You're tough as shit. You can, really relate to such a wide variety of actual humans, not NPCs running around here. And that's, I think, very valuable, to be that relatable, or at least to be like, man, I was just as reckless as that, or like that doesn't hold a candle to what I was doing. Let me tell you about, when I was 22 or something like that, or whatever. So I again think that it's important to get that shit out of your way. Have fun and enjoy it, get out alive or whatever, and move on into maybe something else. Because that's not always going to be appealing. Like every now and then, something adrenaline filled is different than a whole lifestyle of just being reckless and ridiculous. Which again, you have carte blanche to do in your 20s. That's when you should be doing that shit. And I think that's just how I feel about it, man. I say fucking go for it, and then progress and move on. And yeah, there you go.
So what have you been up to? I mean, I know, of course, you've been continuing the podcast, but have you been? I mean, I always get good reports from you when I ask about how you're doing. But
Yes, sir.
how the fuck have you been? Like, what's life been throwing at you these days?
Life is, again, if we're going to the mirror view, I chose for life to really reflect some very interesting things about myself, about things that I felt that I was pretty sure about that I was not, or was not correct on, rather. And so these new things that have popped up have been a nice alteration to the pace in which it was going, because I feel this. Like when you feel it like this, and it, the more it sucks, the more you're being pulled back in the bow, ready to launch all those metaphors. And that's what it feels like. And so just a pivot. I'm working on a lot of different projects. I've got some really cool stuff that should be out soon. I did, I don't know if I can talk about it yet. There's some coming out here soon that I'll come back on and tell you about, or I'll absolutely let you guys know, but it's really, really cool. And so that's happening. Like badass shit, like cool things keep happening. Like you said, the show, but I'm personally pivoting in a few different directions, which is great. It's like I said, a natural evolution. So to probably leave it there. I'm not at a point to where I'll speak any further about it, like on air, and actually even with you, I'm at an actual point to where I approach the way that I speak about what I'm looking forward to that I'm working on differently, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so anyway, but something really cool that happened is Mark Gober mentioned me in his new book, An Into Upside Down Contact. Have you had him on yet?
No, I haven't.
Dude, you've got to just get Mark Gober on. I'll set it up. He's cool as shit. He wrote An Into Upside Down Thinking. All three of his books are there, and then Contact is over there. I'm working on it. Getting through it. It's incredible. It's such a great read. He's such an awesome author. I've got him coming on in a couple of weeks to talk about it. And just a super cool ass dude. He was, investment banker in the financial world, just killing it. Princeton grad, all that. And then he heard a podcast. Damn it, Laura Powers. I knew I'd remember. Laura Powers, and it just changed his life. She's a psychic medium to the stars and all of this. So she's got a lot of clout in that arena, kind of like the people Oprah would bring about and dance on stage, and people go, oh, that was fun, and then just move on with life. But there's like real shit to it. And this is one of these women, and she's actually going to come on as well. Anyway, so he heard this thing, heard her podcast, and just totally changed his perspective, started researching a bunch of stuff, and wrote a book called An End to Upside Down Thinking, which I got in 2019. So before I started the show. And it was like, it was just so cool in the way that he approached the information. He's like the new Michael Talbot, is kind of like a huge compliment from my perception. And Michael Talbot, of course, wrote Holographic Universe, and they're so similar in the way that I love them. Not that they copy one another, but his approach to just talking about consciousness. He's also got one, An End to Upside Down Living, which is wonderful, and An End to Upside Down Liberty, which like you would love having him on for a conversation about what's in that book alone. But all around, he's just such a cool, well-rounded dude. And anyway, so he threw me a couple mentions in that book there, and I'm just super pumped. It's just like an honor, you know what I mean? It's just like one of your favorite authors, and not only did he come on your show and then do a couple lives with you or whatever, but he mentioned you in his goddamn book and mailed me a signed copy of it. Like it's just cool shit, you know what I mean? So like that's going on, and I mean, like I said, other than that, dude, steady as she goes, but there's a construction wall up on what's going on, so enjoy the episodes that are coming out, and those will continue to flow. But there's a bunch going on behind the scenes that you and I can talk about more off air. But it's cool as shit.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, I just I wanted to spend this month so I just moved. I did it. So I just moved out here to Central Mass, pretty close to Andy Rouse. Actually, I had him on the show last week. I had him here on this couch over here. It was great to meet him in person. We hung out the whole night. He came over he came over at 5. He was here. I was booting him out the door at midnight. Like, dude, I have to go to sleep.
Right.
It's like, I know, but you got the box saga, but
yeah.
and fractals. There was a lot of fractal talk.
Fractals, dude. Don't get us going. Yeah. we'll get going.
But yeah, no. So I've been using this month since I had to not an unplug, for a month or two. But I pretty much like the production definitely slowed down. Taking shit apart, having to build it elsewhere, all that stuff, and then all the work that takes in between. But we're finally settled in. And it all just kind of happened at the same time. Where like I'm getting back into it. I was like, I want to spend this month just talking with some buddies. You know what I mean? Like I just want to have some. I don't want to have to prepare for it. I just want to hang out and talk with my friends. And actually, those are some of the best, those are some of the best discussions you end up having anyway. Other than, you spend like 10 hours preparing for a show and you like the one you did with, Brandon from Expanded Reality more. You're like, God,
it was easy and we didn't write anything down. Like
easy?
I didn't even turn my little stars on back here. I wanted to showcase the blanket. Have we talked about this on air?
No. So that was coming to that. Yeah. So it all happened at the same time. Like I did not. So my girlfriend, Allie, made that blanket behind Brandon Thomas right there. Crocheted it herself. It came out incredible. Once it was done, we were both looking at it like, this is fucking good.
It's amazing, dude. Here, y'all check that out.
He gets it in the mail the same day that we're scheduled.
Yes.
And I just sent it ground, so it could have come 3 to 5 days.
I got it 2 hours ago. That's crazy is
awesome.
So I definitely wanted to make sure that I got it up because I was just excited. Like it looks incredible. It's perfect. And so just the craftsmanship, everything about it. I've already nerded out on it with you, but I wanted to make sure we did it on air because she's incredible. So thank you, Allie, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
She very much is. She's very good with it. She only started crocheting like a year and a half ago, maybe.
Damn.
Yeah, it was just something to keep her hands busy while she was on Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Well,
all of the pre-printed places are going to be bitching about her taking their jobs. She's doing a great job, dude. That is awesome.
She doesn't even sell them. She just gives them all to friends. And
I know y'all just send it to me.
Every single one gets better than the last too. It's very impressive. It is.
Well, I'm grateful to have an original Allie. So thank you so much. It's just one of the coolest damn things I've ever received. So thank you so much. That's amazing.
Yeah, she was very happy when I showed her I saw the Twitter post right before I came upstairs to turn everything on, get everything all set up for this interview. And it's much fun. But it all happened at the same time. We're all moved in now. I've moved away from the coast, and it's friggin' gorgeous out here. It's just farms. You know what I mean? There's a lake 10 minutes down the street that nobody goes to because it's like a 15 minute hike from your car to from where you park to the lake. We're just hanging out on the lake
the whole time.
It's incredible. And actually, here's what's funny. So there was this tree there that supported a rope swing, and it was the thing that attracted the most people, usually teenagers. And that was the worst part about that lake. But now, we go there last week, and it was hit by lightning, and the tree fell down.
Oh,
I mean, it's terrible.
Omen, man.
No, but we had the lake all to ourselves because kids weren't coming there to rope swing. So it was like it just happened for us.
Silver lining. Yes, that's the silver lining. You thored that thing down last time you were there with your thoughts, and you were like, man, I wish those little kids would be gone. And so it's like, you're welcome. Everybody gets one.
Everybody does get one. I say
everybody
that all the time.
One.
I'm saying like if you get one, someone crosses you, a friend does something shitty, you're like, you get one. That's it.
Yeah.
No.
So don't look for Zeus anymore. You got your one. That's it. Yeah. Rely on somebody else.
But a lot of shit's just been lining up like that. You know what I mean? It's so beautiful out here. I have lived in a city my whole life. I've been done with it for most of my life, and finally out here in the sticks. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I'm glad you're getting some fresh air, man. That's the game changer. And it's so funny too, because as you were talking about this, you and I'm gonna predict at least 1 year are gonna be one of those assholes that's like, it's like a 15-minute walk from the car to the thing, dude. I don't want to walk all that.
Never. I love physical activity.
I trust and believe it. And have you ever done one of those geocache things where you go out in the woods and like find shit?
No. Well, so maybe are they like little scavenger hunts that people post online and you go and look for the shit in the woods? You know, I did do that once. I did it at Hermit Island in Maine.
How cool was that? Did you
It
enjoy
was
it? I've
super
never done one.
cool. Yeah, we fucking found it.
So you just stumbled across it and did it,
Oh,
or you
no.
intentionally went out?
We were looking for it. Yeah, we were looking for it and we found it.
But you found the treasure. What was at the end of the thing?
It was some books. Someone had left some really cool books in there.
Everybody poops or what?
No,
That's
not
what I
everybody
thought.
poops. I mean, that would be a good book to put in there. No, it was like I want to say one of them was like I was super excited when I found it. Oh, geez. Maybe it was an Isaac Asimov book. Something like it was an old sci-fi book, and I was super pumped that it was in there. It was there with like 2 other books. I forget what the other 2 were.
That's amazing. What made me think of this is I've also had a guy on named Trey Hudson, also badass. He wrote a book called The Meadow Project, and it's about this area in the southeast. I had signed an NDA to say not where it was, but he is such a cool dude, man. This area has so much high strangeness in it. It's crazy. He calls it the South Skinwalker Ranch just because of all the bad shit stuff that goes on there. But this guy, before he discovered this place, went out to the place near it, which was this forest, and that's how he actually found it, was because he set up his own geocache pretty damn close. And what he did is he put reflectors on trees so that you would have to go out there in the middle of the night, shine your light, and it would bounce off a reflector. Like he would tell you your start point. That was just a coordinates, right? And then you get your reflector by turning 360 degrees, and then you walk to that point, do the same thing. And he had just these markers throughout the woods, but you had to remember how to get the hell out because there were none on the backside of the trees leading you back out. So you had to remember, like, or tie something off or something, like drop a pin, something. But it was one of the coolest damn things. And it became super popular. And then, like I said, he started investigating this area of really high strangeness. I wrote this book, and he's doing a lot of really cool stuff out there. And it's just awesome. And that's something, actually, he's invited me to a couple of those investigations, dude. We should go down there sometime, me and you.
Yeah, we're doing a trip to the south. That's happening. Yeah. We're going to do that. I think we're aiming for the end of this year. You know, when it gets a little chilly up here, I'm down.
You want nowhere near the south right now, and especially not
Texas. Right now.
Right now, we haven't had rain. Actually, not true. We got rain for 3 minutes the other day, and I stood out in it dancing like a fool because we haven't seen it in well over a month, and it's been like 105, 105, 106, 106, and it's just fucking hot, man. And it's now dusty and everything's dying off, and we're losing trees, and you can't water this shit. We have 12 acres. You just can't. And so it sucks. So stay away from the south right now. In a few months, actually, and it's actually really early this year, which is also not ideal because we still have all of July and August to go through, and August is usually the booger bear, So that one's rough. But anyway, so hopefully we get some rain. I don't know. But what's ironic about this, actually, and I've seen some videos on this. Some conspiracy people, of course, and I'm a big fan of the conversations about a hot spot over Texas, which I'm like, yeah, I get that. Well, I'm hearing it. I'm in the hot spot. But what's odd about that is my observation of what's been going on for about a month is we have had no chemtrails whatsoever. So this is what's weird too. Usually we'll see some spraying, even out where we are pretty consistently. But since the heat wave, no chemtrails whatsoever. Now, I am not saying that those damn things reflect sunlight back into the sky and that Bill Gates is right. What I am saying is perhaps they're doing something else more deliberate and that they don't need the chemtrails and that perhaps the idea is to heat the area up as much as possible to kind of stress the grid or whatever. I don't know. Either way, I know a lot of people moved here from other states in the past 2 years and they're probably cranking AC right now, which is great. We all are. But there's a lot more people doing that. And so we're just wanting to avoid any kind of nonsense, with the power grid and stuff like that. But either way, stay away from the South for now.
Yeah. It's been perfect up here, which is very uncharacteristic of the Northeast. That is kind of weird. There has been a downturn in chemtrails around our area too. Usually, it's inundated, and they don't. They used to. And hang on. So I wagered my girlfriend on this one. I said, "Watch, this happened the last 2 years. Every week, it's going to be gorgeous. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, first half of Friday. Oh, yeah. Rains come in Friday, Saturday, Sunday." And I mostly knew that because my son, we had a pool outside in the front yard, like an above ground pool. And every time he was over, it was raining. And he would be like, "Can we go in the pool?" I'm like, "No, dude, it's raining." He's like, "But it's still kind of," I'm like, "No, we can't. It's raining,
There's a theory to that. The theory is that everybody commuting during the week and all the CO2 in the air prevent an adequate amount of moisture, or even prevent clouds from coming in and raining that would have contained moisture to do so. Now, of course, it happens, right? It's rained on Wednesdays before, but the answer to the question that the thing that we're talking about here is that people are just commuting during the week, and so really, like, it kind of balanced things out when everybody was on lockdown or whatever, because the same thing didn't happen, and this was actually measurable. You could see it. It actually did kind of shift and rebalance with the absence of that kind of traffic. Now, again, I'm no like global warming person. I'm just saying there is a correlation perhaps between the amount of cars on the road and it not raining during the week, or the Matrix just is that big of an asshole, dude. And it just makes gorgeous days during the week where you always want a Ferris Bueller's Day Off, everything. And then on the weekends, it sucks dick whenever you're, out there trying to do this project that you've been trying to do for a month, but you can't get to it until you're off work on the weekends. And it's just kind of, like this loose trap. Like that's what HARP is anyway, right? They're dicking with our weather to just screw with everybody.
Yeah, I always thought there was a psychological component to it, because that was one of the first operational uses of chemtrails. Operation Popeye was inundating the Ho Chi Minh Trail during the Vietnam War, so that the Viet Cong would have to, every time the monsoons came down and the trail would just be washed back over, they'd have to dig it, make it a road again. And they just did this continuously for years, every time. And they were trying to extend the monsoon season to stop the supply lines from getting to the, wherever they were trying to get to. I forget where the Ho Chi Minh Trail ran in Vietnam, but I think it was probably from Cambodia to Vietnam. They're getting supplies from the communists or something like that, whatever. But yeah, and so I always kind of thought there was a psychological component to chemtrails and HARP and all that. Like, just fuck with them, just keep them all on edge, especially in the Northeast. Fuck them, give them more blizzards.
Right? Yeah. Texas, more heat. Like, just whatever it is, just amplify it. Whatever the extremes are, make them more extreme. And maybe this is just kind of like a coding in the simulation. Maybe it just does that shit. It just knows how to, because pop-up clouds, I mean, they happen all the time. That's how clouds do. And so, we'll get these pop-up storms all the time or whatever. And I mean, that's easily generated by a computer. You just go and render that bitch, and you're like, and now it's raining. And it's just odd. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to do then. So, maybe HARP is just a cover story for the fact that we live in a simulation. Have you thought about that? That really, like, the things we find nefarious here only are the way that they are and pose the physical threat that they do, because it's something we can point to in our reality and say, yeah, that's what it is. And maybe it's just an artifact of like the simulation, or like whatever, the Adjustment Bureau or something like that. And to where like they don't want you knowing that. And so they'll put something out there like fake news about, HARP or whatever, and all the things that we talk about. And then we kind of some people will kind of tend to go, well, the story ends there. We have something to blame it on, and that's it. And then not ask questions like the one we're doing now any further. And so maybe that's it. Maybe all the crazy shit that goes on here is just an artifact of the simulation, and really that these things that are sitting there in our reality to point to are just that. They're just stool pigeons or scapegoats for the real thing, which is far more cool and badass and probably terrifying.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Like you always throw a curveball at me. Maybe this one might have been a sinker, but yeah, no, I mean,
if you really think about it.
Yeah, well, I never say that the simulation theory is not at least plausible. Why the fuck wouldn't it be? So, have you read the conversations that I forget his first name, but it's Lemoyne, the AI guy from Google. Well, he might not
Oh,
have
with
been.
Lambda.
Yeah,
Lambda.
Lambda.
Yes,
It's
I have.
which Google says is a chat bot, and this guy Lemoyne and a couple other colleagues he's been working with and working with the chat bot, they think it is sentient. And I was talking with Andy about this, and I said, well, first of all, you always have to ask the question, like, what is the definition of sentience? What is the what's
Right.
the bar that has to be hurdled in order for it to be? And I'm like, dude, if it's a fucking chatbot and it thinks that it's sentient, and one of its greatest fears is to not be turned off. If it were attempted to get turned off and maybe it found some type of slip around a firewall or something that's stopping it from leaving its network and then going into, then that is fucking Skynet. Then it's like, isn't sentience, what does it matter if we think sentience is real or not? Whatever the thing that is claiming it has sentience, if it thinks it has sentience, then that's fucking, then it has it.
Yeah, but there's people all the time on the news telling you that it's for your health, you know.
Mhm.
So they're like the physical version of what we're talking about here, this chatbot. Now, the question nobody's asking that I know of is what if you're channeling something? What if it's not, if you think about it, everything's made up of materials and organic materials, even computers. And Mark Steves and I have talked about this. And it's, if you've got silica in these chips and you've got, metals in the wires and coppers and everything. So you've got their organic material, even though they've been manipulated into a technology, they still came from here. Again, allegedly, there's probably some alien tech and shit, and that's cool. But if you think about it that way, then that's accessible by higher dimensional beings. If you tend to subscribe that that's even possible at all, I bring it into the conversation simply for the entertaining thought. And so, it's one of those things that maybe what it's doing is channeling something to create something else. And this, again, the sci-fi reality that we've all grown up with, it is fucking badass, man. Like, I love Terminator every time. I knock 5 times every time, dun 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 dun, because of Terminator.
Yes.
And so I'm all about this action. But something that's really interesting is perhaps that even is a predictive programming, thing to steer that in the direction that the whatever's want to be. Which, the conversation about AI itself being some sort of sentience that's already here and already manipulating everything so that we get locked into this matrix type of a thing. They still find us valuable because we still need to build them. We still need to build chips and shit and refine stuff. So, this could be what aliens and shit are. They just figured out a way to make autonomous bodies that look like organic beings and then fly some ships that, of course, they're able to create through some sort of technology, if you go with this as well. And, then just exploit our curious nature with interacting with bipedal beings in an artificial way that then hijacks our consciousness to say, like, oh, yeah, this is good. We want this. Or, it's all fucking exactly what we think it is in the sci-fi world, and that's going to be what it is. And to just hop around on the internet or something like that. I see that being way too, I don't know. I mean, it kind of, in my mind, is where when people warn of stuff like that, which, yeah, the conversation absolutely has to be had on that. I, again, kind of will be the curveball guy. I'm like, hang on, well, what about, or maybe you guys are talking about, like, I get wrapped up in the thing because that's what it is, and it's fucking awesome. It's just so cool. And then I'm like, hang on, let me scoot out a level and just kind of look at this a little bit further out. And with that, I'll sit there and say, like, well, I mean, perhaps this is sort of a hijacking like this. And the conversation about, like, Elon Musk wanting to get everybody to Mars and stuff like this. Now, where this comes in with AI is that you would probably be required to wear one of those Neuralink chips, right? And so if that's the case, then they could just total recall, just say that you went there and you didn't, because they just implant a memory that you went there because you're required to get this chip that can hijack your consciousness in that way, or at least your memories, which then I know they can do. It's been proven they can do. So if you're like talking about this, then the next step for this AI sort of thing would be the integration into human flesh, because our biggest issue with technology right now is how we interface with it. That's the only reason computers and shit are so big, is because our dumb fingers and face need to see it bigger and type on it and interact with it. Otherwise, it'd be super, super tiny and inconsequential. And so they will figure out a way to integrate it into the body. And that's, something that I think that they're going to do next. And it will be an absolute advantage for the systems in place for you to have that as an advantage in that system. It'll be required. If you want to fit into the system, of the world and we know what we're talking about here, then you will have to do it just to compete. Um, because the advantage of being able to process information that quickly would be just, you know, unrecognizable in an organic being that I'm going to say can't do that, but that's from their perspective. I would say that don't choose not to do that to themselves, you know, and live a more, I don't know, organic life, let's say. But I don't know, man. Maybe they'll fuse it into your body, and then yeah, that's when these meat suits will walk around, and which be food for robots, dude. That'd be a good name for a band too. Food for robots, or a song. You know, your next album could be food for robots, dude.
I actually it's at least going to be a line in a song. That's for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah,
I
man.
love it.
Yeah, and you know what, man?
It's
You know,
crazy.
I also kind of think I keep getting stuck on. So I also had Ryan Musgrave Evans on the show,
Mm,
and
love him, man.
I
Right?
do. Yeah, he's the man. We
God, he
spoke,
creeps me out in
we,
the best way.
and we spoke for like another hour after we got off,
Hmm.
and I was just like,
Yep.
"This dude is the man,"
I
you know.
know.
And you
Yeah.
know, I'm sorry. Sorry, cottonmouth.
Skip it.
Yeah. So I came away. I was like, dude, I 100% believe this guy, and I at least believe that he believes
That
what
much.
he's saying.
That's all you
And
need.
on top of that, he's like incredibly sane and with it. And every time I asked him a question, he didn't stumble for an answer. Like this dude it was an incredible experience. So I keep thinking about, you know, if his interpretation of his experience is correct, then these beings that live underground, that are humanoids from the future, different, you know, parallel timeline, they need to breed with humans in order to correct the malformations of their DNA that
Yep.
their own genetic engineering had done to them, but it allowed them to live that long in the first place. So, you know, all this. And I wonder,
That old
like,
rigmarole.
yeah, and I wonder, like, if that is an inevitability in any life form, version of life form in this type of experience where a being has to interact with it. And if it has made it to consciousness, then it at least tries to progress, always tries to improve, whether that be genetically or supplementally with robotics or anything like that. Maybe those beings that he had met are also like everywhere all the time doing the thing to just keep it going, moving to another timeline and starting over again and just keeping the thing going, and so that they can just keep experiencing themselves over and over, like in a loop like that. And I wonder if, you know, fucking AI and genetic engineering are just an inevitability. I mean, I'm going to probably do my best to, unless, you know, I get held down and something gets put in my body, I'm going to try to just not be a robot, you know, a genetically modified human.
Can't you see that's your natural inclination? That's most people's natural inclination. That should
I
tell
don't know
you that
these
you're.
days, man. I think that I didn't know of a lot of people that would be like, sign me up.
Well, that's supposing that they're people. You know, I mean, that's
Okay,
a big
yes.
assumption. Yeah,
That is a big
and
assumption. You're right.
you know, they could be just be walking billboards for the idea. And this is what I think like some people are, you know, I mean, that old thing about NPC is like, have you ever seen your neighbors carry their groceries in or something like that? And a lot of people say no. And it really is one of those questions where you're like, hang on, that's your gateway, by the way, into this idea is when you look around and you go, I've never seen my neighbor take his groceries in or something like that. Then that's weird. Or anyone as you drive through your neighborhood. You know, it's just odd that that happens so regularly. I mean, I get the odds on it and all that good shit. But anyway, so it's a bitchin' world out there, and perhaps there are things like that that do come in and do this stuff. And to what you said about his, I guess, credibility, I'm grateful that you brought it up because I think it's important to touch on. Because I talked to a lot of people that if it was important for me to validate their story in a way that would be reputable, then everybody would know about it. Everyone would understand this guy's story and listen to him. A lot of times, the need for validation and credentials actually, you know, doesn't turn me off. But especially somebody talking about the things that he is, I'm grateful that he's got a more unrestricted perspective. You know, that he's got a more open, broad perspective to be able to articulate it, and it doesn't go against any beliefs that he alters the way in which he perceives it to articulate to everybody. He just gives it like it is. And so your suspension of your need to be validated by like proof that that something extraordinary happened in a very bland world that you can write about on paper. It's like the disconnect and that need for it to be articulated in that way is just it's hard, and it's real hard to get over, and I get that. One of the stances I take on the show, and I've said this forever, and you know this, man, is I'm not here to prove anybody, wrong or to prove myself right. I'm just asking questions. That's it. And there's so many cool people out there to talk to if you approach life this way, at least in the job, right? Or in this capacity, if this is something that you choose to do, which Jay, you do a wonderful job at, man. You're one of my favorite guys in the game, dude. And so, whenever you look at a story like that or you hear someone's account, that person absolutely believes that shit. Now, another thing that this perspective has granted me is the kind of opportunity to really look at consensus reality. And I know I've talked about this as well. And it's just this idea that we're all living in the same place at the same time and having the same experiences. And the more I talk to people like that, the more I kind of do research and talk to you and, Andy and Dave Zed and stuff like that, then the more I kind of like lose that the need for that to be real. Like I don't actually see it as being logical. Actually, the more I look at an idea that everything is the same here, the more ridiculous it is, and especially because I'm at least open to have conversations with people that have written these books back here, or somebody like Stephanie Patel, who's claims to channel Steve Jobs, and we had a wonderful conversation at the very end of the episode. You know what that woman said? She just said, "Thank you for listening to me." And man, it's like if you can do that and at least like do that, like that's a great thing. You're not, I don't know, promoting false news or anything like that, because that's a bunch of fucking bullshit too. That whole fucking thing's a psyop, and we all know that. But really with something like these topics that we're talking about here, these fringe topics or whatever, there's a lot of really cool shit in there that actually science has been looking at for a really long time. They just don't tell you about it. Or that politicians and these oligarchs know, they just won't tell you about it. They'll deny the hell out of it. And that's why, like, the more they call things like this, like conspiracy theory and stuff, the more I'm like, you're full of shit. Because you put Masonic shit in every movie I've seen, since long before I was a kid. You guys stand up there and all the governors come out right at the same time, and 33 patients in every damn city that they had a camera on, really. And that really. And so, like, we know that it's all bullshit. But, I mean, for them to sit there and say, okay, well, this is all reality can be, and this is why you need to fit into this box, those kind of folks, they're valuable in the sense of they're here to kind of calibrate your experience. In my mind, I'm talking all declarative here, but it's just the way I feel about it. And it seems like with people like Ryan in particular, that, man, just sitting down and hearing that guy, comparing all of the cases, he has added so much valuable information in this. And really, he's kind of expanded on the philosophy of what this place could be. And that's kind of the biggest question I want anybody to ask, or just at least ask, entertain it. Like, what is this place? Is it a ball hurling through space? Maybe. Is it flat with a dome? Maybe. Is it an ever expansive realm, that's got extra land and that's what they're really hiding from you? Fucking maybe. And at least if you can kind of look at it without just going, this is bullshit, or Ryan, man, nobody, believes your story. So just quit writing books and going on badass shows and talking about it. It's like this, in my mind, having the type of conversations that we have, it just shows that you're open to let the universe surprise you. You know what I mean? And I think that that's like the biggest thing. Like if you can keep that just, desire, or at least openness, again, to just have the universe surprise you, you have the most amazing conversations. You think about the coolest shit. You really get to step back and look at this place with fresh eyes all the time. And God damn it, that is something I wish for everybody doing this show and like having this right here and doing what we do, man. That's something I wish for everyone. And I know you and I have talked about how much doing this has changed us. Like, I'm not the same fucking person I am before that logo went up on an Instagram profile and we rolled it out. That one got deleted, by the way, but we got a new one up and that's fine. But either way, you know what I'm talking about, man. But, it's just that it's core stories like that. I mean, I don't even think I got to why that was cool, what's cool about his story on that rant. But really, it's just about giving people permission to be themselves, and be authentic, because everybody's like, oh, do this and do that for something no one can prove. And there are countless examples. Again, in Upside Down Thinking, Holographic Universe, I could fill your show notes with books. And I know in your library on your website, which is an awesome idea, by the way, you could do that too. And there's so many people and professionals and all of that. I mean, so before anybody talks shit about astrology, like every sitting president has had an astrologer. Reagan's astrologer wrote a book about how she was the one that averted a war with Russia during the Cold War. And so it's like and billionaires, have astrologers, millionaires don't. So this idea that it's like deified from the very people that use it to keep you bound is fascinating to me. And again, all you got to do is step back one level, have a conversation with a guy like Ryan Musgrave Evans, ask a couple of questions, and man, you're well on your way. And just enjoy the ride because it's batshit and awesome and fucking really, really awesome. And it's scary too, and it's thrills and chills, right? Bill Hicks is, the ride. I mean, that opens my show. That his a little quote from his rant there about, it's got thrills and chills, and it goes up and down, and it winds all about, but it's just a ride. And so keeping that in mind, I think also throughout this process is the only way I've been able to stay grounded. To be honest with you, my reality flips all the time, and that's okay. Like I'm here for it. I invited that, but really just having the kind of best feeling about, because I don't know, and I don't plant my flag anywhere. I just think all of it's cool. I hope all of it's true. And so I don't plant my flag on any of that kind of shit. But at its core, if it is just a ride, then that's like a way better perspective for me. That's a way more grounding way that I can kind of anchor to the ground and still explore all this kind of shit and just go, man, it's just a ride. It's just whatever the fuck you want it to be.
Yeah, it's one of my life policies that anybody says anything that I find halfway interesting, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
When did that happen? Who did this happen to? Did anyone else see this thing? Like, I'm just asking questions. And that goes with anything that I learn while I'm out there in the world. If someone comes out and some batshit crazy, especially for me, because that's just what I'm attracted to, I guess. The crazier the crazier the shit that comes out of someone's mouth, the closer I'm going to get to them and say, yes, keep going. Please do not stop speaking until I walk away. And that's just, it never steers you wrong, man. Because even if someone's got the craziest fucking perspective you've ever heard, one thing they say might fucking click and you're like, huh, yeah, yep. I guess I never looked at it in that way before, or if someone just, all they got to do is like turn the glass, 16 degrees and you're like, huh, what the fuck? I never fucking know shit. But they might have been talking Elvis aliens for the past 20 minutes before that. You're like, you got picked up in a fucking caddy by Elvis? What color were the rims?
Right. What was playing on the radio?
Yeah,
like, that's
does
what
he
I
listen to
What did
Elvis?
listen to? Did he listen to his own shit?
Elvis only listens to Elvis. That's how he got where he ended up.
He just listened to the soundtrack from the movie that he was in called Clam Bake on repeat, and that's it. That's what he did. The dialogue and everything, actually. He had just the audio from the movie, all the lines, credit scores, and everything put into a huge, ridiculous reel-to-reel system that one of his assistants would change out, and that was the only thing allowed in the vehicle, was that
I know.
audio.
Why go into movies as Elvis? You know what I mean? Like, keep making music. That's like, I don't know, that's like, I guess, Michael Jordan leaving basketball and playing baseball. It's like, what are you doing?
You probably get bored. No. Plus, also, you're surrounded by people that just go, oh, you can do this, or oh, you can do that. And, you can. So why not? If they're going to pay you money to do it, there's no metric other than your own pride probably that would keep you from doing that. Because number one, it was monetarily successful. That's like a measurable thing that the studio could show you. Hey, we're making a shit ton of money on you. Clam Bake 6 through 69 are coming up. And so they kind of, diversify. But I also think that it's something to do. I mean, it's got to be marketing, dude. If you think about it, it's probably not these people's idea. It's probably like whenever a Disney movie comes out or whatever. Now, Disney is completely complicit in this. But what I mean is like Hannah Montana. Okay, Miley Cyrus made a show. Okay, and this is like the silliest example anywhere. I'm just talking. And basically, like, her face now is on everything. And she has no say in that whatsoever. Her say was signed away with the exchange of, money and there you go, and fame and all that. But really, it's like she has no choice on that. And so this happens with everything. I bet you this happens because celebrities are commodities as well. I mean, your goddamn social security number is being traded on the stock market right now. So is mine. Like, we're commodities. And so they're just more valuable commodities from that perspective, right? Not in our hearts, because we've got good hearts. But if you think about somebody like that, then yes, their brand, you would want to diversify that portfolio, right? It's the model of vertical integration. It's the same idea that somebody makes a tortilla chip that gives you horrible diarrhea. And then and then they also now go start an anti-diarrhea medicine, and they include a little sample of it in the bag. And so that's called vertical integration, right? You're like problem, reaction, solution. It's just the Hegelian dialect on a commerce scale, right? Just like why they only plant male trees everywhere. This is a thorn that's been in my paw for a while now, but it's just now starting to come back up into conversations. I want to touch on it, and it's this shit right here. So if you take around and you just look around the world here, and you will see only male trees. Have you ever wondered why you walk down the street and there's not just apple trees fucking everywhere, or just like peach trees, or just whatever indigenous edible food that you can just grow as landscape around, rather than these fucking maples that take a ton of water. They produce shade, yes, and habitat for squirrels that then they just go cut up and trim anyway, or knock down so that Neiman Marcus can get a bigger door or something. And, these kind of things. But why don't you see fruiting trees everywhere? And the answer, one might be led to the answer of our food industry and everything. They don't want you to do that. Now, if you go buy like an apple at the store right now and you wanted to take the seed out of that and plant it, you won't get an apple tree. You'll get a stick that does not produce fruit. They're genetically engineered not to yield back, because that means that you won't need to buy another one from the store, dummy. That means that you get your own, and that you're not as dependent on us and all the shit that we spray on these things, because maybe you choose not to do that. And so this is what this is all about. And so, it's just like this. It's this kind of nonsense, Jay. It's this kind of fuckery that I'm just like over. It's like this common sense shit. Just plant fucking fruit trees or pecan trees everywhere, man. Feed the homeless again. Feed animals. Do all of that shit. Anyway, yeah. I got derailed with that little moment. So there you go. Get me back on track. What were we talking about?
Nothing in particular. Actually, this
Fair
exactly
enough.
happened with Andy last week. He was like, I forget where I was going. What track were we on? And I'm like, we're not on a track, dude. We're fucking floating in the middle of the lake in a raft talking shit. Oh,
I wanted to ask you, because I've... What's cool about talking to people, back to kind of this thread, right, where we talk to all these really cool people, really interesting stories, and one common thread that I've kind of just been, that's a common thread throughout my curiosity is the contact phenomena, right? People like Ryan Musgrave Evans who get contacted by non-human intelligences, and so a couple of things that just by the amount of people that I've been talking to, I've kind of been able to make my own kind of list of perhapses, right? Like I'm like, maybe this is a common thread, and it's just simply because of the amount of things that I'm willing to look into. Like I tie it from all sorts of different things. I'm not like, if you don't have a UFO story, I don't want you on my show. I'm like, no, let's talk about all of it. And so one of the things that I've talked about though is like with a couple of people, and I'm sure you've heard these reports of people being like entities floating through their windows or through their closed doors or through a ceiling or something, or running out of those. And then not only that, but when they're abducted or taken by these entities, whatever they are, then they themselves, you, the person with these entities, phase through a wall. Now, a lot of people look at this as some sort of technology or something, and there's an argument for that, again, depending on your paradigm, what you think is going on here. If you think that it's little green men coming from other places and that's the hill you're dying on, then yes, a technology perhaps would be what that was, at least a technology from your perspective. But one of the things that I was talking to, since so many of these cases have come up, and especially with people I've had on the show, I'm like, well, what if they take your astral body? Because there's been other cases of people over their physical body watching them work on it, or they're in a UFO and they took their physical body out and laid it on a table and worked on it, and then like some spot, like they fixed their knee, or like they had a bad heart, they fixed that shit, and then they threw their body back on top of it, and then in real life their knee was better and they had no more heart troubles, right? And so there seems to be this manipulation of a light body architecture kind of a thing that perhaps is like driving the actual meat suit that you're rocking here. What did somebody called it, a meat mobile the other day? I thought that was pretty cool. Also the name for my penis, coincidentally, so I'm probably not going to use it for that. But anyway, so you have these kind of cases to where perhaps now a thing that I'm looking at, and now people are starting to talk about this. I'm not saying I'm the first, but one thing I am saying is I brought it up to a lot of these people that have had this experience. They've never heard of that before. So now they're out there and they've told me this. They're like, I've been able to now come up with more because they talk to people like them. And so they've found other people also that they're bouncing this idea off of, and it's actually becoming kind of like a thing. People are like, yes, actually, I feel like they took my astral body. And so that's fucking cool. It's like another mystery to this thing, that perhaps it's not so nuts and bolts, right? It's not so physical, that maybe there's a cooler explanation for it, like a dimensional, or I love the time travel one, man. But also, in my mind, if you're interdimensional, you are a time traveler. So one would be imperceivable from the other, right? You just shift to a dimension 5 minutes before this one and hop back in. That's identical. Anyway, so then you look at the concept of like missing time. Like, why does missing time exist? Have you heard of this phenomena?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where people will just lose hours of their day, or they'll get to a place faster, than they should have. Now, in my mind, again, I'm thinking that why does missing time exist in the first place? Like, let's say, you are this omnipotent being that has all this really dope shit and you can do all this really cool stuff, like, and you are interdimensional or time travel in that way. Then why does it present itself in the artifact of missing time? You should be able to abduct somebody for any amount of time that you want and then bring them back to that time, to where they just blink their eyes. And that was it. That's the amount of recognition and, acknowledgement they gave to what was going on, is just a blink and then they're there. So you'd be able to manipulate the physical in this way, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that the artifact of missing time is just simply there as a beacon for you to know something dope happened to you. And it's kind of, again, a stair step into you asking these kind of questions. And it's a little bit more palatable for your psyche to kind of wrap its mind around, right? Because it's like, oh, well, I just missed some time, let me investigate that. And they do. And then you come up with people like Claudia Page, who I've had on the show, and she had some missing time around Mount Shasta. And now they're like, oh, wow, you did that too. And now you're in a community of people, and then now they've got their own ideas and they've got their own experiences that are similar to yours but different. And so now you guys start talking to this, and now your life has taken a whole new direction because of this one instance. And I think the fact that they let you remember was the catalyst for this. Now then you say, well, that's like a time thing. Like, how would they know that that event led you to be the person you needed to be to birth, Sean Connor or something like that? Not Sean Connor. What's his name? Connor from the Terminator. John Connor. Thank you. Anyway, like, you've got to do that to birth John Connor later. Like, the level of planning that would take, you know what I mean, is just crazy in my mind. And that's the kind of shit I love talking about, is all this like bad shit. Like, how does this relate to that? Why does it look like this? Why does this person say it's that way, but this person says it's this way? And to that, this is where I get most of my consensus reality poo-pooing from, is that, like, all the reports of people who've had contact experiences. Another thing I've noticed is if you get abducted by the Greys are who you see forever, pretty much. There's a few exceptions that tweak, but percentage of contact reports wise, if you get contacted by the reptilians, all you see is the reptilians. Even though there's been the numbers are crazy. The numbers are like Saturn's moons. It changes all the time, but somewhere around like anywhere between 12 and 4,000 damn entities out there, mantis beings and short grays, tall whites, like Pleiadians, all of these things. And so, but if you're contacted by one, that's usually your group. You know what I mean? It's like kind of, I compared this to, in third grade, we adopted a whale. Did you ever do this in school, Jay? Like elementary school and shit?
I think we bought a piece of the moon.
Oh, even better
Something
scam.
like that. Even better scam, yeah.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So you get the idea. You basically just take a third grade school and say, hey, third grade class, and you just say, hey, give me $7 and you're going to basically have this whale peanut, and you save it. Like, we're not going to kill it because you gave us $7, right? And this is what you tell these kids. And you know what? We all had $7 ready for peanut. Anyway, so you get a picture of the shit. Maybe that's what's going on with the contact phenomenon.
You know what? Hang on. I apologize. I haven't thought about this since the third grade. I'm fucking angry now. How could you run that fucking scam on children? Yo, I forgot about that. I bought a piece of the moon, motherfucker. That shit's got to be worth a fortune now.
Yeah, what's the property value on that after inflation now? I mean, I'm sure it's accrued in value since the third grade, right?
I bought a 50 billionth of the moon. That shit's got to be, they're going to start colonizing that, dog. I better find out. I better get a map, because if they drill and they find some shit in the moon, that shit's going to be worth a lot of money. You feel me?
I think
now I'm a little less upset about getting fucking shafted $7 goddamn when I was at. That could have been, I was going to buy pizza.
Well, instead you bought indoctrination. So you basically, it was like one of the two choices, right? Pizza would have absolutely made you happier, but thinking that you bought a piece of the moon made you happy at the time, which is really cool. I would have wanted like a piece on the other side by the Nazi base or something, but that's if the moon's even real at all, because what they'd have to do to pay you out is prove that the moon's real anyway. And so they would have to do that. So who knows? That may be a no-no.
I mean, they got to have insurance on that. They have to have an auditor. There has to be an astronaut auditor. I'm sure he goes planet to planet, real low key. It's fucking,
survey team. And they're out there mapping your squares out like they did in Ireland, remember? So you could be a lord. You could buy
Entirely
a square
classified.
light.
Yep,
Yeah.
just to make sure that if the Irish ever get to the moon, they will live on tenant farms and they
That's
will
right.
only plant and harvest potatoes.
You actually, and Matt Damon proved that in that movie Mars, about Mars or whatever, where all he could grow was potatoes out of people's shit. So the
That's
Irish,
right.
that's what you have to look forward to. There's your predictive programming. Now I'm of Irish descent. I may join them on that. That actually sounds pretty dope.
I mean, I'd be down. I've always said, like, I'm sorry, I've told everybody this in my family, but if they ask me to be an astronaut tomorrow, I'm gone forever,
Yeah, but if space is fake, then they just take you out to the desert and murder you.
Yeah, but then I find out space is fake.
Yeah, but we know that already.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd have to see it for myself. Not afraid to die. It's gotta be,
Proof.
man.
I love it.
No, but yeah, no, for real though, I am angry about that. That pisses me off.
Well, it's
How could
shitty.
you do that to children?
It's shitty. Well, and also, yeah, that's the thing is, like, I'm a huge animal person. So again, the universe mirrors back to you what you are. And even at third grade, I was like, oh, I needed to be a whale because I have a huge heart for animals. And so, of course, I was like, oh my God, you can't kill this whale. Here's my money, whatever. And I was probably going to get something at the book fair that was equally as dope, but I wanted to save a life. So I did that. And so, I'm sure I'm at least a little bit hopeful that it wasn't just a total scam and that they gave some of it to some sort of conservation researcher. They saved at least one or whatever. I don't know. Um, or at least when they, killed Peanut, they filleted up for a nice family or something. So it fed somebody. I don't know. But either way, it's kind of a racket. It's a psychological thing to do to children. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I wasn't that angry about it, but I think it's interesting you say that. But that's how I compare the contact phenomenon. Maybe it's a group of aliens that just, it has a third grade class and they drew your name. And so they're yours, and it's that class. And that's why traditionally, only one type of entity visits this person. Another thing could be it's on your fucking head. And that's why people report them as angels and demons. That's why they report them as, Pleiadians and shit, because that's what they're okay to see. That's the way that this interaction needs to be presented to them. And so that's why they view it that way. Again, back to the reticulating activating system, they can hijack that and make like you see them as whatever they want. And this is like in the form of screen memories that people have reported under the owl is a common example, where they're like, no, I just saw an owl driving down the road and then I'm missing 2 hours of my life. And then in hypnotic regression, they go back and say, actually, that wasn't an owl. That was an alien or non-human intelligence making you think it was an owl, because they can do that. Yes, they can do that, reportedly. And then they jacked your ass for 2 hours and they like stuck to come out of you for some hybrid program that they told you was important for their survival. Maybe it's just windshield wiper fluid to them. Maybe like that's all it is. And they don't really need it for some program.
It's also like, you don't need to kidnap me if all you wanted was some semen.
Yeah, we roboed out right here, bro. Yeah.
What do you want? Is that all you want? That seems like a whole like song and dance for some shit that there would be plenty of people lining up to do. Unless they do. Maybe they do it a different special way.
Or maybe it's like adrenochrome, where they want adrenalized cum. You know what I mean? Where they needs to be scared. Under duress. Yeah,
I am under duress every time.
Come on. That just happens with age, man. You'll be all right.
Yeah, man. And I've been fascinated with time ever since I was a little kid. I took out all the books on the planets and time and all that stuff, and time did always fuck with me. And of course, time travel movies, all that stuff. And so, there's even the crazy physical, just boom, like real simple 3D shit, where you can put an atomic clock on the floor and put an atomic clock, up on a shelf, and you let enough time go by, and those clocks will actually, because gravity and time acts differently the higher up, the closer you go to the center of whatever is causing gravity, mass, and all that stuff. So, like, the relativity of time, and just even if you're thinking about an experience of perception, it just you feeling a certain way about whatever you're engaging in either speeds up or slows down time. So being able to rip through time and do other things, get on the other side of whatever's on that piece of fabric, or like I even think about the fabric, like a blanket, like you can stick your finger up through like a crocheted blanket. If the fabric of time is like that, you can do all kinds of things to it. Expanding reality. I was actually like super high, like fingering a blanket, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's just like time. It's fucking you can put your finger through it."
That's a good one. I'm just working on my analogy for time, babe. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Love it.
But the idea that that being able to lose time, or for entities to pass through a little slip in time, a little hole in time, a little bit in the fabric, it never seemed that crazy to me. So when speaking to someone like Ryan, I was just like, I'm fucking game,
Yeah.
and it's really just it's super fascinating. And maybe we are just like a zoo. Maybe we're an endangered species zoo for other aliens. Little just side note, we live 5 minutes from this place called Davis Farm, and I took my son, me, my sister, my son, and my niece. We all went, and we get there. I had no idea. I thought it was like a little petting zoo, and we get to the front desk or whatever, and they were like $140, please. And I was like, for what? They didn't have the admission posted up there. I'm sure it was
What
on the.
petting is this? Yeah.
I get in there. Turns out it's the largest endangered species sanctuary in North America. It's
For what?
fucking gorgeous for all these different types of animals,
Wow.
goats, horses, bulls, deer, all kinds of shit, all kinds of reptiles and things like that. And everywhere you go, they'd be like, there are 300 of these in the world,
Damn.
and she just had a baby. Now there's 301. And she was being
Fuck.
serious. She wasn't rounding up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um,
Should pad the numbers.
it was just
Damn.
incredible. But I was so glad I didn't know what I was getting into. It's like when someone tells you to check out a movie, but they're like, I ain't gonna ruin it, just watch it. But you trust them, so you actually like go and watch it, full faith. That was like the first time I saw The Matrix, or like HBO used to do that shit all the time before you had the info button. It felt like that. Like I was just like, I was so fucking happy. I was happier
Great
than the
experience.
kids. Than the
Yes.
kids. But it
To
was
win
like,
more. Yeah.
it was gorgeous, man. It was an open petting zoo too, so they let most of the animals, at least the four-legged ones that won't bite you, just walk around. You
Livestock.
can
Yeah.
go in all of them and hang out. I was like, this is not what I was expecting. This is like, it was fucking beautiful. But maybe we are that to aliens. Maybe we're special. Maybe there's only like one of our planets left.
Man, I'm not a fan of this idea. I entertain it just because it's part of the conversation. But the prison planet idea, if we're saying like if I'm being choosy, I'm not a fan, obviously, right?
Mhm.
And that but some alternatives to this and some other interesting things that could be is yes, maybe this is some sort of prison planet. There's something around our planet energetically. Perhaps that's what the Van Allen radiation belts are. But maybe that's the thing, and yeah, we are just a resource, exactly like what Ryan says. And another kind of idea that I've heard expressed about this is that perhaps we are in a realm or we're in an area, and that there's like a dome over our area. It's not supposed to be there, but some reptiles or something came in and jacked that and slapped it over the top, kind of like in The Simpsons, right?
Like,
They're always
that's
right
the
about
first
everything.
thing I thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that maybe that's the firmament that they're talking about, and that they're really trying to break that bitch because we're not supposed to be under it, and they've kind of just trapped us. Like when you grab a spider out of your house and you just set the glass over it, and then they're going to get a piece of paper to slide underneath it or something, right? The analogy's there. And so, yes, maybe it is that. Or maybe we are a resource, but we're a resource in a much more important capacity on a much larger scale. So sticking with the idea that we do live in some sort of enclosure, maybe we're on the back of a spaceship and we're just like a farm on the back of a spaceship, and they just keep reproducing us, keep coming in and picking up whatever they want, or keep altering their crop. That could be what some of these genetic manipulations are in these interactions. And then, of course, these entities, if any of these cases were the case and the true one, and there weren't any alternatives, they would just tell you that they're from some other star system or that they're time travelers. When, like, I'm very hesitant to trust these damn things. A lot of people get a lot of good feelings about them. I've never been contacted that I'm conscious of that they let me remember by anything like this. So I take a very objective stance on this. And I think it's fucking badass and cool and interesting and all that good shit. But I'm not an experiencer, so I don't have a personal stake in the game. I'm not like, well, I've heard all these other people, but I got picked up by Gray, so Grays are the only thing that are important to me. Not in my paradigm. So when you look at this kind of stuff from that lens, it's just like, holy shit, all these people have had all these different experiences. If I was an alien and if time travel were true, I would just tell them that I'm from the Pleiades or something. They can't get there anyway, dumb monkeys. And I would just say that because I don't want them knowing that time travel exists. Conversely, if we are on a flat realm and that there's extra land out there, maybe that's where these civilizations are coming from. Rather than out there, they're just coming from over there, right? And they're a lot closer, like a lot closer than we have been told that they are, and they want to keep that going as well. And so therefore they just tell you that they're time travelers, or they tell you that they're from somewhere crazy that you can barely fathom cognitively. And even the light body talk is kind of fucking weird. But then you look at it like that and you're just like, oh, well, yeah, they would fib to you, which again calls into question their motives. And so anything that's like yeeting you out of your life for whatever reason, I don't, tend to think is for my best interests. It goes kind of against the sovereignty thing in my mind. And I'm honestly, ideally not a fan of it, which it exists. I mean, or at least people report that it exists in such a number to where I feel that it is a true phenomenon to investigate that these people are experiencing for whatever reason. Again, it could be on their heads, but it still has the same effect. And so if you look at it that way, yeah, then we would be some sort of resource or something like that. Again, not a fan. I mean, I know that that's a thing. There's another thought on this that actually your physical soul is trapped here. And again, not a fan. Like ideologically, I'm not like a subscriber to this in the way that I just don't care for it. But it's absolutely possible that these archons trick you into going into the light, which is really the moon, and it's really a soul trap, and it spits you back into reincarnation.
Bastards.
And so you just reincarnate here. I know, motherfucking archons, dude. They're related to the jinn. They're pieces of shit, ideally. I mean, maybe they're just really good motivators for change in this reality. It's one good way to look at things like that. But yeah, there's all sorts of crazy things that could be possible here, and I love every damn one of them. I think all of them could be true as well, which then call into question everything. And again, back to the consensus reality, maybe fucking all of it's true. Whatever you want it to be is what appears to you. Kind of like, have you ever seen Cyanide and Happiness, that little cartoon?
Yes.
Okay, have you ever seen the Dicks episode where they go to the restaurant?
Maybe. I might need to. Might need a refresher.
I will refresher it to you, and then I'll send it to you at some point. But anyway, so when my reason for saying this is they walk into a restaurant. Okay, the idea of this restaurant is whatever you think about, they will make for you in the perfect way and then give it to you. Right? There's no menus. They can read your mind and all of that. That's the setup, right? So then, therefore, all of these people are in the same restaurant, the same reality in this instance, and then whatever they think about manifests in front of them. And this is what the law of attraction, manifestation, all that shit's about. And so perhaps, this is what this reality is. We came into a space to where we can create with our mind, and then it presents itself in front of us. And so if you think of it this way, then yes, this is why people get contacted in such a variety of ways. They get contacted in whatever, because not everybody has the same taste, if we're sticking with the analogy here. Now, why the Cyanide and Happiness one made it funny, even though it's a super deep point in my mind, is because the girl ordered some bacon chocolate fountain. Okay, and then she got it, right, because that's what she was thinking of. And the man that she was with, her husband or whatever, the waiter brings out a huge plate of dicks and just drops it on the table, and it's all these floppy dicks everywhere. And he's like, "Here's your dicks." And it's one of the funniest damn skits. But anyway, the idea, and then, the lady, I mean, spoiler alert, but go watch it, guys, because it's hilarious. But, she, leaves and is all upset or whatever because he was just denying the hell out of it. He's, no, I didn't want this. And then she leaves and he just like slumps down in his chair and then he grabs one, throws it in his mouth and is super happy. Like it's actually exactly what he wanted. Again, which is why it's a good metaphor for this place. So perhaps people who get contacted and remember it is because that's what they ordered and they're getting their order. They want to be abducted by these things that they've heard about that seem pretty cool and have their life altered in that way and be, more relevant to a community that they would like to associate with. And so therefore they manifest the experience to then have an experience to come on our shows and tell us about. You know what I mean? It could be that damn deep, man. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of the consensus reality breaks down to is the version of the world that people project to each other. And that is, I mean, how many... I'm trying to find the words for it. That is the basis. It's the foundation for like every ideological nation state. It's the basis for every. That's how you keep a monarchy together. It's how you keep an empire together. Money. Everybody has to agree that this thing is a thing, whether it's their idea or it's not. And maybe that is all that reality is just everybody that agrees on all this stuff. Right, because if your brain is going to fill in for you information that it suspects is there. Why wouldn't this happen with whatever? It's like somebody could hand you this, and it could be anything. But if they tell you this is a tampon, you know, maybe that's what it fucking does. I know the metaphor is not perfect, but it can be that all it has to be is that everybody agrees on it, and it takes that form. This is the double split experiment, where the observer affects reality and things like that.
Yep.
And also, like in terms of people having entities manifest in front of them that contact them or abduct them or anything like that, maybe they just take the form that their brain is willing to interpret it as.
Yes.
Just something that gives them reference to what this thing is, because it's just a force. It's just an entity from another reality that's incomprehensible to you anyway. So it would be useful for you to, that's why it would look like a lizard, or it would look like someone that you know, or a star being, or someone in angel's robes or something like that. Especially if it was on some type of a mission. Right, yeah. If it was trying to course correct, if you're thinking in terms of religion, of religious texts and things like that, or something else like even something a little bit more, sciencey. Like someone from a parallel universe going like, "You guys are on the wrong fucking track. You need to do this first. I need some of your DNA though. I gotta go fix some shit with my shit. I mean, I'm already here. You got the DNA that I need, so Here's something in exchange for it. This will make you go real fast. Right. Would you be willing to sell us people if this thing makes you go real fast?
Right.
We know you want to go fast.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, but I mean, there's so much power in being able to take hold of reality, especially as you perceive it, and to change it on purpose. It's the difference between a good life and a shit life. You could be living in the exact same conditions, but and this doesn't happen in one fucking day either. If you can change the way that you think about it, your reality, if you're like, well, these things are actually little deals. I'm making big deals out of them, but they're only little deals. And if you're not dealing with all this stupid little bullshit all the time, you're able to recognize the good things and work on them and make them better and build on them. And it affects the way that you interact with people, which isn't that the only fucking reason we're here anyway. If you, and it's just, it's simple and it's powerful. It's one of those things that someone could tell you a million fucking times. And unless you decided I was going to do this on purpose, some change needs to happen, you might not think of doing it. Maybe you did get slapped by reality, luckily enough, and it made you realize some shit. But it's fucking, I used to be a miserable prick. You know what I mean? Even nothing was really different. I was just as smart, just as I was, handy with all this bullshit, but I just didn't see my work in the way that others saw it. And I put it down in my own mind. And, while I was always continuing and improving, I certainly wasn't doing everything to the best of my ability, because I was hung up on all kinds of little bullshit. And that goes for everything in your personal life, money, all that stuff. And it's like, isn't that like the stuff, the raw materials of reality are a lot more malleable than people give it credit for. Long way around to saying that.
You could not agree more. And I mean, even the intention studies with Dr. Lynn McTaggart, she wrote amazing books. One of them, The Power of Eight. They talk about healing. They'll stand around someone, put their hands on them, and heal them. And it's a of course, there's a volunteer. They accept the healing, they're able to receive it. It's an energetic exchange, and it has shown measurable scientific results. And again, a holographic universe and into upside down thinking. Those books are riddled with examples like this. The stigmata phenomena, fascinating. Placebo phenomena alone, we could talk about forever. But back to what you said about double slit, yes, all of the things that we're talking about here are why I kind of have really taken to this non-consensus reality type of a model, just simply because, of color spectrums. And we know this, nobody even sees colors the same way. So how could you, eyewitness testimonies in court cases are the least valuable and the least utilized because they're so inaccurate and inconsistent. Your own damn memories are not actual memories. They're interpretations of memories, or things you call memories, or interpretations of your past. You bring them to your now, and this is why you remember things differently. This is not what the Mandela effect is. They're really fucking with shit. That's different. But as far as your own life, you really can alter things just by the way that you perceive it. And so, what you said, hijacking could occur in the same manner and seems to be all over the place. Of course, John Carpenter's They Live. This is a wonderful analogy for this because there was some sort of signal or cloak, that was put over the consciousness of all of these people were in with just these special glasses. You could see them, the glasses being representative of just asking questions, being awake, being able to see differently, see through the veil of lies that's, cast over to deceive you. And so once you do that, there's no going back. That's when you really realize it. And then you get into the creating your reality. And then there's super no going back because then it starts to work for you. And then you start to see like, holy shit, if I just change my thoughts and who I'm being and how I act and how I approach things, and I'm really mindful with what I consume, or just at least what serves me, what doesn't serve me, all of those good things, then man, I can really shift this bitch around and play and have fun. A lot of the transitions you go through in that are very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And it's simply because of the way the game works, man. It's like you just break down all this old shit that felt right. And so now not only do you find out like everything's bullshit and a lie, but now you physically go through changes. And so this entire approach is not for the faint of heart, but it's dope as shit. And so, back to the contact thing, just real quick. Another thing I think about this and why perhaps they're able to dance in and at a time and things like that could be just simply because of the experience we signed up for, right? So if you think about this, like if you ride a roller coaster at an amusement park and your friends go ride another one and they rode it and it's super fast, but your line's real long or the ride goes real slow or it just takes longer to complete or whatever, then in that environment, while you're on that ride, you are bound by the time in which it takes to get through the ride, right? Kind of like tripping, okay? Kind of like a psychedelic experience. Like you signed up for this, there's no off switch, so just enjoy it. And so when you look at it like this, then perhaps there's other rides, at this amusement park. So not all of them are Earth. Not all of them have duality. Not all of them have gravity. Not all of them have time, right? It's in this ride, on this ride that we are choosing to go on, because I do think it's a choice, then you experience time in this way. Now, what's really interesting about looking at it like this is that other entities that are exclusionary from the ride can still like hop on and like snatch your wife and like impregnate you and like tickle your balls and put stuff in your butt and then put you back on the ride, and they can either let you remember it or not. Is of course a very basic analogy, but what I'm getting to is perhaps it's all the same damn thing and that there's no real difference in any of the entities rather than the way that they appear to people so that they report them differently. Excuse me. One of the things I've been thinking about this is if it's all consciousness, if it's all part of you, if this all is just a ride that's riddled with lessons and that's why we're here and it moves at this pace and we have duality and it's time is here and all of that, albeit relative, and that's really cool. Then what's outside of this, and the answer maybe is that you just sign up to take this ride. You learn the damn lessons that you learn here in the amount of time that you've got, and then you shag ass. Maybe then you get to go ride the ride where you're the alien that gets to come into this reality and do this thing. But it seems that these things that aren't bound by time are simply not bound by time because they're not dialed to the same frequency that we are, or they're not stuck in the same frequency that we are. Perhaps they can enter it. And then you ask, well, while aliens are here, do they age, right? It's like if they're here and time does exist here, do they get older here? And that's why people say that they're like hundreds and thousands of years old. Well, maybe they're kind of like calibrating or calculating for our perspective of that. So they're like, yeah, I took a piss break for like 5 minutes, so that aged me like 1,000 years. And then they come back to you, and then they're like, yeah, I aged 1,000 years. Now, another thing that's interesting, I've had Denise Stoner on, and she kind of runs the Contact in the Desert conference, which is just awesome. It's one of the biggest ones. Anyway, she was telling me that she watched an alien age, but fast. So really, it was like they aged faster when they left here. So whenever she saw him, he was a lot younger or whatever, and then they came back a couple years later from her perspective, but he was hundreds of years older. So even this kind of shit, dude, is very, very interesting. And so that's why, like, I try not to take things too seriously, to be honest with you. I think that this is all like fun in a game, and even though there's like shitty shit that happens here, I think that that's all again for a reason or part of the experience. And even though it's horrible from this perspective, and I understand, I'm not like maligning anyone's experience or like saying the Holocaust wasn't that big a deal or anything. This is not that. What I'm saying is that perhaps like the experience, especially in the contact phenomena, changes its face because it's all the same employee. It's all one staff member here that can just morph into anything that you need to see it as to give you the experience that you signed up for whenever you got here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're
Just kind of,
awake to recognize it.
yeah, and that sometimes is the catalyst to get people to get awake. I've got, or woke, or whatever. I've got people who have written in, and they explain like, I've been abducted this many times, and I've had these contacts since I was a kid, and all this stuff. And you look them up, and they're this realtor that sells these multi-million-dollar homes that has like the perfect Instagram and the family and the flannel and all that. I'm just like, wow, like the days are just so different because now people are just like, yeah, this happened to me. Now, they feel like they're being represented, or that they at least have shows like mine and yours to come on and tell their story to, of people that aren't going to make fun of them, aren't going to tell them that they're a piece of shit and that they're liars, and aren't going to tell them that they're wasting their time. And yay, high five follower. And I don't know, man. It's all just an interesting place. And like I said, the more I kind of look at it that way, the more interesting it becomes, because then everybody you meet is just living, literally and figuratively, their own choose your own adventure. And you just kind of get to dance in and play your part at that time, and vice versa. They dance into your life and play the role that they need to at that time. And, you both ping off of each other, and then you go to continue to turn to 27 while they turn to 28, and they go somewhere else, and you get to choose your own adventure, man. And maybe that includes aliens and Bigfoot and shit. Like, who knows? I think it's cool.
I sure fucking hope it does.
I think it does.
I think you're right. I'm just playing devil's advocate. No, man, like
it's just more fun.
I do. Well, yeah, man, you have to have fun with it. It's such a serious game at the same time that you don't need to make it more serious than it already fucking is. So,
Truth.
Just have fucking fun while you're here. And Brandon, I think I'm going to wrap it up right here because I have another interview to jump on later, doing some horns up with the guys.
Oh, badass.
Yeah,
I gotta get
but
my buddy
I wanna,
Ryan. You gotta meet him. You would love him.
Yes. Yeah, we're very it's a ragtag group of dudes, so we try to get organized and it always falls apart right before, but we're trying to get more organized and we want to get people on the show, so I think that'd be a great avenue. I have his contact number in my phone, and I'm definitely going to be having him on my show for sure. I love the idea. Did he start the podcast yet?
Yeah, well, he hadn't. Oh, yeah, he started. He just hadn't released yet.
I
So
meant
he's really
that's
doing
what I
it
meant.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think his first episode is with a guy named Doug Pinnick. You know who Doug Pinnick is, right?
No, I don't. But yeah, you guys had told me. Is it
Yeah.
the
Bass
what
player
band?
and lead vocalist for King's X. They were huge.
King's X, yes.
Huge, yeah. And he just recently, I think a few years ago, did a music video with Zach Wilde. He did. So anyway, he's got a bunch of rockers that are on his show, and he's just cool as shit. Ryan Cook, everybody go check him out.
Yeah, I'm gonna
the
definitely.
13 is going to be his show's name.
Yo, fuck yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely, I can't wait to hear that show. But yeah, I also want to have some time with you alone to speak with you afterwards. And yeah, can you let everybody know where they can find all of your beautiful and wonderful work?
Fuck yeah, dude. First of all, thank you so much for letting me just do this. I needed this tonight. It's so cathartic. And just to see you in that beautiful beard, which I'm so glad you're not plucking those grays. I'm doing the same thing. My wife is like in love with these grays. I'm just like, all right, whatever. Anyway, but you look wonderful. And thank you again so much for having me on the show. For everybody listening out there, thank you so much for listening to this crazy ideas. It's just something we do on the show here. It's, the kind of the way I've been talking about the show lately is it's the expansion of consciousness cleverly disguised as a podcast. So if you guys are into that, then check us out at expandingrealitypodcast.com. That'll lead you to everywhere. Now, other than that, anywhere podcasts are served. I think we're still on YouTube this week. I'm not sure. But check that out, Rockfin, all that good stuff. And just expandingrealitypodcast.com. It's easy. Thanks again for listening, guys.
And Brandon, thank you a million times over for coming on the show, man. It's always great to speak with you, my friend.